Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Charlas and Chismes with our legislators. Today, we are charlando with Representative Elizabeth Hernandez. Thank you for being here. My name is Gil Collin. I'm a proud ILLCF alum, a past ILLCF scholarship recipient, and currently a member of the Alumni Association Board Communications Committee. It's a pleasure to see all of you here today. Before we begin, a few quick reminders. Please keep microphones muted unless speaking. Stay engaged. Feel free to take notes. Audience questions will be welcome towards the end. And please be respectful of the speakers and one another. We hope today inspires you and helps you see your own path in law, public policy, and public service. With that, I'm honored to introduce our moderator for today's conversation, Elizabeth Villarreal.
Thank you, Gil. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Charlas y Chismes con Nuestros Legisladores, a special series presented by the Illinois Legislative Latino Caucus Foundation Alumni Association. Thank you for joining us wherever you're watching across Illinois and beyond, or if you're watching this on our YouTube channel. One of the things I love most about this series is that it gives us an opportunity to slow down and have a real conversation. Not political debates, not campaign speeches, just honest conversations with the people who help shape the policies that affect our lives every day. The decisions made in Springfield influence our children's education, our neighborhoods, our workplaces, our small businesses, and opportunities available to our families. Yet many people never have the opportunity to sit down with their state representative and simply ask, "Who are you? And why do you do this work?" That's exactly what today's conversation is about. Today, we're honored to welcome someone who has dedicated nearly 2 decades to public service. Representative Elizabeth Lisa Hernandez has represented Illinois' 2nd House District since 2006, serving the communities of Cicero, Berwyn, Brookfield, Riverside, Stickney, and portions of Chicago's South Lawndale neighborhood. Before becoming a legislator, she spent 17 years working in education, served as senior policy advisor to Lieutenant Governor Patrick Quinn, and has dedicated much of her life to advocating for children, working families, and Latino communities. But titles only tell part of the story. Today, we want to get to know the person behind the titles. And before we begin, I have to say, Tocaya, it's a pleasure to interview another Elizabeth. And let me just say, as a past Cicero resident, I have had the honor of getting to know Representative Hernandez. We share a beautiful name. And Representative, thank you for joining us for our Charlas and Chismes.
No, pues encantada, happy to be here. And yes, we do go quite a bit back when it started, like what got me involved in the first place. So just happy to join you on this on these charlas and chismes.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about your childhood, your family, the values
Sure.
that your parents instilled in you, and how those early experiences shaped the woman sitting in front of us today.
Sure. So I was raised in Little Village. Um, so I'm a I was born in Fort Leonard, Missouri, on an Army base. So I'm actually, well, an Army baby. And then we moved to Ventura, California, where my sister was born at the Army base there. And then we came to Chicago, landed in the Little Village area and grew up there pretty much. Those folks who go back in the day, if they remember Zemsky Brothers, that's where my mother worked. The Goldblatts, the Zaire, those that was the days. That's where at that time that's where I was growing up in the Little Village area. I At the time when I was growing up there, I had asthma, so I first started at Gary School, then landed at that time it was called Robert Burns, and now I think it's Cardenas, or I forget what the school it got renamed. Anyhow, there's such a love I have growing up in the Little Village area. So as I was growing up, I did move to Cicero. When I moved to Cicero, I was a single mom at the time, and met my husband in Cicero, but I met him when I started working at the school system, or the schools in District 99, which is the Cicero Public Schools. Um, Met him there, and um, from that point on, that's married my husband. Well, my kids grew up there, and he just became a very, very much a part of the community. Through the school systems, I really got involved. Name it, I did it. As a mom, you get involved, whether it's like PTAs or just the Girl Scouts, your kids draw you into the community. And so my husband at the time, a police officer and working for the schools too as officer friendly, we were in the community, and so at the time when I first came to the district, it was a time when there was an influx of Latino families coming into the school system, and being one of only two who spoke Spanish. Well, guess what? I was right there in the forefront, listening in to many of the concerns from parents. So really got to know issues through the school system. It was a time that the school system became very overcrowded, a lot of issues going on. So I really got to pick up a lot of the problems. We had a gang problem at the time too. And so recognize quite a bit. Um, at that time, Cicero too was and this is back in the 90s. I'm uh, letting you know my age here, but goes back to the 90s. And I have to say, Cicero was going through quite a bit with the influx of Latinos coming in. The local administration was not very friendly. Saw it within the school system too, on how the treatment, based on the conversations that I would have there. So, long story short, that's kind of a beginning of drawing me into getting involved, because I was in those conversations. I will have to say what influenced me to get into sort of the political space is there was opportunity to make change. Things were going on that really upset. It just brings back memories the times I were living here today, because you get angry, you get upset on how your community is being treated. Anyhow, uh, one of just that's really just imprinted in my mind was these towing initiatives that the administration had, that they would just pick up all cars, and there's the majority of people living there are Latinos, and so it was a way to raise some revenue. And it was just hard to see that families had their one vehicle here, that whether that took them to work or whatever use, it becomes very important, that vehicle. And so when you're seeing families, trying to get their cars out and using their last dollars to make that happen, there's a problem here. Anyway, it just was a very uh, there was just exploiting the community, and there's where the urgency. We have to make change happen. We have to do something about this. So yeah, that involved me. Fast forward to now, that was sort of the beginning of entering and getting involved in a political way to change, and bring the representation necessary to really uh, offer a voice to the people of the community on what they deserve. So I could keep going. I mean, but that's kind of where it began.
Yeah, and
Um,
I know you walked me down because I was living through a lot of this alongside of you. I remember
yeah,
because my family moved into Cicero in the early 70s.
Mhm.
And I remember that change, the influx started happening like 1985, 1986. I'm dating myself. I remember being in high school at Morton East in the 90s and the late 80s and early 90s, and I graduated in 90s. So you saw and I felt those. So yeah, it's interesting when
Mhm.
you live there. So I'm grateful that you decided to champion for us because it was challenging.
Yeah,
So what
it
was that? I'm sorry. Go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead. No, no, no.
What
What's
was
the
that pivotal moment where you said, you know what? Or was there a conversation with someone, well, no, Lisa, you should run. You should
Yeah.
run.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, being in the school system, there was so many times families would come to me with that problem. Can you help me? Can you help me? And I did what I little I could do, within the school system, right? I worked at the administration building. I was not a teacher. I was actually support staff at that time. And so I directed, did what I could, but I have to tell you, it was the influence through my husband because he ran for town president at that time. Um, when this was happening, Sister was still Republican, and so with such changes occurring, that it was just the writing was on the wall on the direction that Sister would be moving. It was much more democratic. It was just a matter of time. So it was getting candidates to run for office. My husband did try to run for town president. He lost. However, he ran for committeeman, and that's where it dramatically changed. Once he became Democratic committeeman and really put in the work as a committeeman, that's when it just started it began. Um, Slowly but surely, there was a turnover in, I want to say, just before 2000, late in the late 90s, that the changes were made. We got the Democrats elected, and well, I take that back. It wasn't Democrats; it was an independent, but a person that we at that time could work with. But mind you, that's where the change occurred. For me, I did also run locally as one of the trustees and lost. So that was my first race. Trying to make the change locally, did not make it in. But there was an opportunity based on a lawsuit that Malda put through on a redistricting. So Cicero,
I
um,
remember that. Yeah.
Cicero and a piece of Berwyn, this was a newly created district for the purposes of Latino representation. So no incumbent. This was new. And so, are you kidding me? I threw my hat in knowing that this was the opportunity that really we can have a voice down in Springfield. So mind you, I threw my hat in there. I didn't make it again. I lost. However, I did have someone looking at my race closely. It's a person by the name who was running at the time for lieutenant governor, and that was Pat Quinn. So Pat Quinn saw that I lost, but he saw the vigor, that just the energy there, and asked me to join his team with the condition that I keep at it. I had his support. So he was a person that really opened the door for me to continue until I made it. I lost one more time before I got into office, and I guess I'm doing something right because I've been there ever since. So that's
So,
kind of the
yeah.
journey, to get me into office. Yeah.
So you touched on something important, I think that so many people fail to understand is that you need to have like that sponsorship, sort of like your padrino madrina, right? And it's someone that can help you open up that door and say, hey, you know what? I see the potential and I'm going to help and guide you. So then the third time that you ran for representative, now you had the support of lieutenant governor, correct?
I
So
had it the
what
No,
did
I
that
had it the
campaign look?
second.
Oh, the second. So, but you ran, when was it when you ran, you finally said, this campaign's different. We're going to do things differently. Um, that you saw, okay, I'm
So
going to
when
be
the
able to
dis
win.
Yeah, so when the district was created, that's when I just threw my hat in. But at that time, Cicero was still Republican, and it was under the leadership of a woman by the name of Betty Loren Maltese. That as soon as she got wind of me throwing my hat in, she put her person in there. So what was happening here is I was essentially working against a machine that, really honestly, it was just a matter of time. And so uh, Pat Quinn took note of that. Like he saw, I mean, he's a neighbor, he's from Oak Park, uh, was very, very keen on seeing what was like how this was developing. So, and he saw the type of relationships I had with other Latino elected in the area, and he saw me a person that like he he wanted himself to work with. He wanted to work with other elected as well, Latino elected. I mean, he just saw the opportunity here to just move forward. And so open that door. He wanted me to, it worked both ways because he saw this would be benefit me. It would certainly help him too in terms of developing even those relationships further. Because I'll tell you, that's always what it has been. It's all about building relationships to be a successful official. That's truly the sauce there. You can build those relationships anywhere. I mean, that's what gets you ahead. So uh, he took me in, but that's what when he sat me down on that interview, he did tell me he expected me not to give up on this, and I certainly did not. So I tried it again, and mind you, it was a machine I was working against, and I didn't make it in the second, but I got in the third. Third time's a charm.
I admire you because, being a fellow Elizabeth, I know the strength that name carries, but you were really, when you think about it, you were paving the way for many other Latinas.
Yeah,
Because those of us that grew up in Cicero knew how difficult it was to even go anywhere. And so you created a path for yourself and you opened the door for many other people. For that, I truly admire you for.
gracias.
Now, you've represented the second district for nearly 20 years. Which is remarkable. Communities
Mhm.
change, families grow, businesses open, children become adults. Some of the students you worked with years ago are probably now raising their families of their own today. When
Mhm.
you drive through your district now, what makes you smile? What makes you proud? And what reminds you that there's still work that needs to be done?
Oh yeah. I, you know, there's accomplishments. I worked at the school district in one of the areas early on. One of the first things, actually, the first bill that I passed was the expansion of childcare. And so that was an area that was very important to me. I sat on the board for the Children Center of Cicero and Berwyn. So I had an affinity and a just for that area. Just seeing my kids through childcare services, and at that time it was a push for pre-K for all. That's when the beginnings of that initiative was occurring. Anyway, I go through my community, I see how the growth and the expansion of childcare for working families has been a very important initiative for working families. And it continues. It's an initiative that we continue working at. Um, we accomplished the pre-K for all, but what I would say is it's just a given to have families have an opportunity to have the ability to tap into a child care, you know, to child care access. Um, and so that's been a continued effort, and I think that is just an area that um, although we've accomplished, we still have to continue working on because it doesn't reach everybody still yet that needs childcare. Anyway, and then not to mention all the things that are occurring right now and setting us back. So it's a fight, 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 fight.
It,
Um,
the
that is,
childhood, yeah, childcare
yeah,
is very important. As you know, working families, if you can't get to work, then you can't pay the bills, you can't support your family. And childcare nowadays is very expensive. It is. And so
right.
families are, I know, they're grateful. Now, when you're home talking with constituents, what conversations are you having most often these days? And what are people worried about? And what are they hopeful for?
Oh, Liz. And these days, it's just, there's been accomplishment, but there has been such a severe, like, um, deception of a sort, sadness to see how we've had, it's like a regression that is occurring right now with um, all the effects of what we're getting from the federal administration and how it's affecting our families in terms of immigration. These raids, I mean, it's the fear is out there. That's not gone away. Has it subsided a bit? To a degree, because that has just these raids, what the federal has been doing lately has just caused, among our communities, I know a lot of uncertainty, and to try to keep people protected and just supported and just give some level of, tranquilidad in many ways. Um, híjole, it's been work, but work that we can't let up on, and we have to come together as a community um, to get them through this, to get all of us through this. And so um, I hear fear, but on the same token, it's talking about a sort of coming together, being together, and getting this through together. That's sort of like what my work has been trying to be there for my community, that they feel that they got their back. Somebody's watching their back. So that I could tell you, that's what's current. It is so, it's not been, it just never eases up. It's just really hard times right now in that way. Um, Bringing some sort of um, tranquilidad to the community because of what the days we're living in.
Yeah, and it's challenging, and again, it's not just the legislators doing the heavy work. It's community really needs to reach out and say, hey, how can we support you? What can we do? For an example, you become sworn in as a new US citizen. Well, then, let's get you registered to vote. Let's get you active and civically engaged. Let's find out how you could be part of the solution. And yeah, it is scary. But I remember growing up in Cicero in the early 70s and the 80s, it wasn't very welcoming to Latinos.
No, that
We went through that too, and it's kind of like a resurgence. So
agreed.
it's being mindful of that. But I think sometimes people think that a legislator is just simply voting yes or no,
Oh
but it's so
no.
much more than that, right? It's listening, it's balancing different perspectives, it's helping people navigate the government, it's showing up. When
Mhm.
someone calls your office for asking for help, what do you hope how they experience, and how do you want people to describe Representative Lisa Hernandez after they've worked with you?
Um, so I have this motto of, that that I have my office, my staff abide by is no one's turned away, no matter if they're out of my district. It's always offering some sort of direction, whether we can um, satisfy or respond to whatever their concern or need is at the moment. And if we can't, then give them direction of where they can find it. But that that's what I mean about representation and having your, like, your community's back, that is what service is. That is how I've always envisioned it to be, and that's how I play it out. So I hope that that is how people view. But Liz, all these years I've been in office, I still find myself having to, it's a continuum of educating our community on the type of services that are available to them. There is still to this day, there are people that don't know what is right there in their own backyard. And so anytime I get, whether it's a immigration related or let's say a license that is being held or it's taking a long time to get. It could be just an array of different types of issues that the office could come across. It's just getting the service, that they're getting a response, that that's important to me. And my hope is that people feel that um, that they have representation, that they are being heard, that they are being serviced. That is very important to me.
So that we have people here listening that possibly are connected working in state jobs. How can we help you or help the people in your district or even help other constituents of other districts? What things do you think would be helpful for community to help you to get the word out, to help educate on services or things that can help them?
I think it's the development of partnerships. One of the things that I have done in my office in hopes to reach folks and get like a sense of trust, because there's some trust factors here too. I've really worked on an initiative called Welcoming Centers almost from the very beginning. That basically it's a initiative um, it's that newcomer. It's reaching that person who is a newcomer to the community, an immigrant, and having that service that walks you through pretty much offering what is necessary to bring you to self-sufficiency. That is much of what the Welcoming Center is about. It is an initiative aimed at the immigrant community, newcomer, to really basically walk him through at some point to self-sufficiency, right? And so this Welcoming Center initiative, Family Focus is one of the organizations that's within my district that is a welcoming center. I've invited them to come into my office and have office hours within my office to just a few things here, not only to get services for folks, but it's also to allow people to feel comfortable in a government office. It served many purposes. There was many reasons why the effort to do that, what it could mean, what it can be, because that's how I found out how many people just didn't know what a state rep did, because you would have them come in and said, and if I would be there in the office and I would meet some of these folks, they would ask me questions. And what do you do? And like that's how I connected, and it just gave me realization of how the work continues. It's an ongoing effort to educate folks. You can't let up on that. So that's just I'm just giving an example of one of the things that I do. Um, yeah, to just try to get people to connect to see what government, it's just not a vote. There's more to this
So,
role.
so Representative Hernandez, the one thing that really stands out from the first part of our conversation is that your story didn't begin in Springfield. It began in the classroom, it began in your community, it began with familia. I think it's important because policy can sometimes feel distant. We hear about bills and budgets, but every bill starts with someone's story and every budget affects someone's life. So I'd like to spend the next part of our conversation talking about the work you've done in Springfield and
Mhm.
how it connects with people you represent every day. You often said that education opens doors. You spent nearly 2 decades working in public schools before becoming a legislator. You experience education on multiple perspectives as an educator, administrator, a parent, or someone who helps determine state funding. When people hear education funding, it sounds like another budget item, but you know it's much more than numbers. Can you help us understand what equitable education funding really means? Why should every Illinois resident, not just parents with school-based children or school-age children, care about how we fund our schools?
Yeah, the equitable fight. I think that the evidence-based formula is what has tackled the sort of um, the funding distribution and how it was at one time offered. Equitable means it's really just trying to get the funding distributed in a way that uh, the, our students are receiving the kind of education that they deserve. And by that, I mean, it should be here in Cicero no different than, um, uh, what's that? Uh, t- uh, why can't I think of that school's name? It's these affluent areas, New Trier. So what New Trier is getting should be no different than what Cicero is getting, or in Chicago in different areas. It's really bringing this balance to get the kind of education that our kids deserve. It should be an equalizer. I think you've all heard that education is the equalizer, right? That is the way that uh, you educate, especially the folks in underserved areas. You offer the education that potentially could take them out of that vicious cycle of poverty. It's education, education, education. So the whole idea of being equitable is to really try to get these dollars distributed in a way that offers those type of opportunities to students to get everybody into that um, level where they are getting the education that they deserve. We're no different than New Trier. That's if that's how I see it. That's what I've been like really fighting for. And to this day, I mean, I think evidence-based formula is doing the job, and we're not there, but it's made the difference.
Yeah, thank you. And it's in a sense, it's investing in our future, right? It's investing in future
Absolutely.
professionals and workforce and businesses. We may not see the immediate return on investment, but when it comes through, it's lasting because then those same people go back into their communities, hopefully invest in them and continue to lift up community. Now, I'd like to ask something a little different. Can you think of a student, a teacher, or a family that you've met over the years that their story has stayed with you? Someone who reminds you why education legislation matters. Not necessarily their name or mention them by name, but of course, what a moment that has stayed in your heart and it continues to influence the work that you do today.
Oh gosh, I have to tell you, there is one person that kind of really stands out because they've stayed close to me, but there's been several. I have often, um, so there's been students, there's been teachers who have been very amazing in the way of how they get their kids. Um, I've had the opportunity to work with some teachers in the way of how they motivate. Like we partner up, but some of these teachers I've met, how they motivated their students and getting involved has been extraordinary. And I say this because I'm just working with a teacher from Morton High School right now that holy cow, what energy she has that I'm looking to build a put together a student advisory council and through her sort of leadership there, uh, just uh, the uh, the relationships, the partnerships, that just the effects of what it could do to some of the lives. In this case, the students is just the sky's the limit. I'm thinking. Um, that's a teacher, and there's been a couple in my sort of time as a state rep that have been so effective in that way. Students, oh gosh, I've had several students that, um, in particularly, in particular with the RISE Act passing, the opportunities that have come their way. Oh my God, it's everything that I have to deal with, it's all worth it. Like just to see the lives that have changed, how their lives have changed because of these opportunities, because of these initiatives, um, laws that we have passed. It does truly, I've seen it with my own eyes. Um, and I'll just, in my families, I hope I'm answering it right because I'm like covering all of them. I've met teachers who have been extraordinary in changing people's lives, students that I've seen dramatically what's happened in terms of opportunities their way, how their lives have turned out, and in terms of families as a whole. Yeah, I've seen people who have had the opportunity to get their first home because of some of the work that we've done. Um, are you looking just like for one
Oh,
story? Is there,
you're answering it
because there's
correctly
been
because
so much, yeah, over
yeah,
20
and
years, I've seen
yeah,
it. I have
and
really, it's very true. You see the laws that do pass, you see the effects. Even the temporary driver's license, I'll never forget this one. Um, it was the temporary driver's license early on. I was, not the sponsor, but the co-sponsor of it. And people would come down the aisle, like I'd be at the grocery store and they want to show me their temporary driver's license and take pictures. It was just such a proud and significant moment in their lives. It's just those are do it's
and you are explaining it because that's what's driving the work that you do. That's what's helping you to stay focused on the work that you knew that still needs to be done. And a driver's license may seem very trivial to some people, but in a way, it's giving you
uh-uh.
validity and it's saying, hey, you're here. You exist in a society that may not give a face to people that may not have that those numbers that they need, right?
Yeah.
So it's very important and it's understanding those small little wins and you're helping tremendously when a person is able to buy the house.
Yes.
That's the American dream. You come here, you buy your house, you're raising your children, they get an education. So yes, you are answering the question. And a lot of people have you have come into contact over the years. And I know that that's the guiding force in your or guiding you to do the work that you do, right? So you have answered it. I'm going to pivot a little bit because there's also been a lot of questions that were submitted regarding supporting immigrant students. So several people have registered for conversation, our educators, and many submitted thoughtful questions. One that came up repeatedly centered on immigrant families, an educator wrote, How can we better serve immigrant students and their families?
I think here in Illinois, we continued fighting the fight. So our immigrant students are due to the RISE Act. It's one of the biggest bills that I think, that I find important, if not the most important bill that I've passed. It took me 5 years to do that, but it gave the ability for undocumented students to be able to receive MAP grant. And the other piece to this is before even that, the creation of the Illinois Dream Fund was created after in-state tuition was passed. The Illinois Dream Fund was created for that sole purpose to be able to offer scholarships, in particular to the undocumented. And then, there's the efforts of the Illinois Legislative Latino Caucus Foundation, their efforts to also offer scholarships. But the difference between the RISE Act and the Dream Fund is that they were part of the pool now. This was state dollars open to students that were undocumented as well. So that was such a huge win. And that is just one of that is one of those initiatives that turned lives around too. What I have learned over the years, though, is there has to be such great effort, and I do find there is more and more recently that when you bring a concern or an initiative that requires dollars, it's really looking at the creative ways to fund those initiatives. So the Dream Fund for me has been one that, it was a Dream Fund that was created, but it had restrictions in it. It couldn't be. Now remember, this is prior to the RISE Act, but the Dream Fund was restricted in a way that only private dollars can be collected, and so it was hard. It wasn't much money. I'm happy to tell you how things have changed over time. We were very fortunate. Is it about two, maybe 4 years ago? There's a bill that passed. It's the lottery bill that for special. It's a scratch off lottery that for special causes. It could be Alzheimer's, it could be a veterans of breast cancer. So it's 10 of them. And 4 years ago, 3 years ago, we were able to include the Dream Fund into the scratch off, right? Into the scratch off initiative. Now, I'm happy to tell you that we are collecting at least $1 million a year for the Dream Fund because of that initiative. So what I'm trying to say is it's always seeking and looking for ways to better expand those opportunities for, in this case, it's our students, our dreamers. So that's a proud moment that RISE Act to allow students to receive funding, and that is a continued effort. We are Illinois is making sure that those initiatives stay put, and then not to mention, we're doing all we can to continue with the efforts of protecting our immigrant communities, including our students.
So that leads me to the next question. What are meaningful ways community members can support immigrant families without putting those families or themselves in at unnecessary risk?
Okay, repeat that one because I didn't hear you at the beginning.
Oh, sorry. What are meaningful ways community members can support immigrant families without putting those families or themselves at unnecessary risk?
Mm, yeah. Well, I don't know how. Look, I putting themselves at risk. Look, a Latino walks when you're having to carry your passport because to identify yourself, I think everybody's at risk, right? But
Yeah.
I think, we have to band together, help one another. It's um, it's an encouragement. I mean, I certainly do my part in trying to encourage um, folks to help folks. That's it's. I, I think that is um, a part in me that I. It's in. I don't know how to explain it, but I just. It's almost like an obligation of a sort. Like I have. That is what I have to do. The times call for it, and so um, it's doing your part, putting your part. It may feel risky at times. It is running into the fire at times. But if we don't pull together, if we don't band together, unified efforts is really what how we defeat these moments. Um, at least that's the way I see it.
No, and it's right. And, those of us that have some level of privilege should with should help out in the ways that we can, using making sure that you're not endangering anyone or yourself. And I think we saw this all in action when those raids were impacting all the communities, where people were quick to mobilize, were quick to hand out whistles, were quick to educate, to show up when needed, to help shield those who didn't have that level of privilege. Where we saw where people were delivering food to people that couldn't get out. And I think it's looking at the examples in our communities that we saw, and these are everyday people doing things that they felt were in their capacity, right? And it's speaking up in spaces that maybe you need to speak up. Maybe it's speaking up for students or speaking up in teacher and the PTA to make sure that immigrant families and students feel welcomed,
Absolutely.
right? And so it's showing poniendo tu granito of things that you know that you can do.
Absolutely. I will tell you, I will share with you a little bit beyond because I took advantage of another role that I carry. I am, chair of the Democratic Party as well. And uh, one of the, all these raids occurring, how do you get, I wanted to use that influence, that role, as well as how do I get a message out to exactly that? Democrats, do your part. This is a value of ours, protecting our communities, getting the right information out. So it's going, it's finding ways to also reach as much as you can to those who can help. And so in my leadership role, that is where I find that I have, and this, I guess, where there's a responsibility I have here to find ways of how, again, how do we get to those folks that can be helpful? Or, you know, um, because this was all over the state. There were pockets all over that you would hear there, and there was a need of what do we do? How do we? So I utilize my role, my leadership role, to get there, to reach people, those people who were just anxious actually to help. There are people out there that are just looking to say, what do I do? What do I do? Tell me, what do I do?
Yeah, and I think that's all we can do is finding out what you can do, connecting with community-based organizations, connecting with your local legislators to see how you can help because the fight is not over, right? There's still more work that needs to be done.
Exactly.
And you touched on something which I view it as preparing the next generation, which um the scholarship that I received, that he received, Soy el futuro and Jesus that's on this call, um, in a sense is preparing the next generation, right? We were all fortunate enough to receive the scholarship to the foundation, but education doesn't end with graduation, and we all know that. It should prepare students for meaningful careers, fulfilling lives, and Illinois continues investing in workforce development, apprenticeships, manufacturing, healthcare, technology, and skilled trades. When you think of the workforce of tomorrow, what skills should today's students be developing?
Oh, I can tell you, you can't go wrong with the sciences and any sort of level. That I would always encourage. But I think it's always for me, I have recognized not and this has been discussed in some of the committees that not everyone is aimed to go or goes through the university. There is other, technical sort of opportunities. So it's having funding available for every level, sort of that workforce type of career um, one wants to reach. And so I I think that there is much better effort. There is effort, I'll say, to um, uh, place the funding in those areas that give the opportunity for, um, if it's not going to be a university that you are going to go to, then there are other opportunities of how where the direction you want to go. I'm not sure if I'm um, answering this correctly, but I know that there's just been much more effort now to fund other areas to give that kind of opportunity, I guess, for students that just don't see that the university is the way they want to go. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And there is a need for electricians because the boomers that are retiring, there's a high need for trades. Um, but how can the state continue building stronger connections between education and employment? Because now I'm hearing a lot of students, actually, they're reaching out to me.
mhm.
They just graduate and they can't find a job. They can't find a job. So how do you think the state can build a better connection between education and employment so maybe we can avoid this?
It's it could be partnerships. It um don't have the answer, but let's put a group together. This is how it works. That if we're going to come up with ways of how we can go about um, how how we can satisfy this issue that is occurring and that they're not getting jobs. Um, where is the problem? Where is this why? So we got to get to the bottom of it. I don't have an answer for you. I don't have an answer what that could look like, but we can figure it out. Whether it means um, let's say this is how I would approach it. Um, I would get um, the issue in front of me and see where it's coming from and where is it's figuring out okay, they graduate. What? Why are they putting in the resumes? Where is sort of the gap or the what do I want to say? Why is that occurring? I guess I don't have an answer, Liz.
Yeah, and it could be a lot of things, right? So I know from my many years of working in higher ed and advising students firsthand, a resume doesn't clearly reflect the student's personality, or the student may not know how to highlight their experiences. The other thing that I hear too is that they can't get the job because they don't have enough experience.
Mm,
But if they're just graduated, maybe they didn't have the same cultural capital that other people did to connect them with those experiences in summer jobs or doing internships or shadowing. But maybe it's figuring out with something where you can build those relationships and say, hey, you know what? I have some constituents from my district that need to get experience in accounting. Let's set them up for shadowing or something. So then they have those actual skills that the real world call for, right? That a lot of times is lacking that, they need. And so maybe that could be an opportunity. Um,
well, I know that what we do, there is, you know, it's not the answer, but these are like, if I had a student come up, if someone came to my office with this issue, I would probably guide them to some of the job fairs that we have, some of the um um at the moment, like what is like there are those opportunities. Um Many times I do get job opportunities that someone would relay, hey, we're going to be opening up some jobs in whatever it may be, right? And so it's posting that up, right? But I'm not sure if that's really the answer. Here, is there some sort of a pipeline of how we can get the from the school to working opportunities? I it's something to look at. I would I would have to take time to see how that can be worked out. But there are those, like I said, there's job fairs, there are internships, there are these sort of spaces that come up. I don't know if it's just, yeah, um, the connection between companies and I thought that that already existed between the universities and certain companies, but I love to take a look at it and see how we can do better.
and 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 for those of us that are here that are looking for a job, I know an upcoming cafecito for next month is part two with state employees. So if you want to work
Mhm.
for the state, join for that cafecito. But
Mm,
there's potential for other partnerships here, right? But I do want to touch on something because it's important. I know Cicero working families. I come from a working family. My father was a union steward. He was a steel worker for over 30 years. Um, and I know that you're also a champion for supporting organized labor and working families.
mhm,
How
mhm.
do you support unions and workers' right, especially for immigrant families who often work in essential jobs or essential industries, but may not always have or know their rights?
Yeah, well, there's right now there's opportunities and there's organizations that do offer information on how to be much more um, informed about what rights they hold. Um, they exist. It's just a matter of giving them direction of who offers these know your workers' right. It's workers' rights, bottom line. Um, But I will tell you, one of my earliest initiatives early on was there were people that would come to my office about, not getting paid. So wage theft, we call it wage
Mhm.
theft. And so, oh gosh, maybe about 15 years ago or so, there is there at so there is a way to submit, and this is again education. People at that time did not know that you can file, with the labor department on the wage stuff. Anyway, uh, what was occurring? There was such a backlog. People were just those who knew or were submitted loss of wages or um, just put the complaint in. Just ended up in getting in line, and these cases would last uh, up to like a couple of years even. People would be waiting just to see if they could get any satisfaction. Well, anyway, we put in a system um, through the AG's office that they would be sort of like the there was an adjudication process that we ended putting in place by law so that it would move much more rapidly for those people who were experiencing wage theft. Anyway, there are measures. I'm just telling you that those are sort of like um, laws, initiatives that we have put in place to help along those folks that are, either in this case it was wage theft or any other sort of labor right. It's just being much better informed, and out of the issues that may come across, there are there is at times in this case we move forward with an initiative to just help the worker. I just wanted to throw that out because we
Mhm.
do
Yeah.
there is compensation is workers' comp is a big one too. Um, but anyhow, um, yeah, they are available. There is, if people are looking to know more. I mean, I could host my office will host sometimes these worker rights kind of events if people want to know, or I partner up with one of the organizations to offer the information to folks.
Yeah, and then they're important. I mean, I know my dad got injured on a job and we lived through a workman's comp nightmare. So I understand. Why have labor issues remained such an important priority for you?
Why is labor issues important to me?
Right. Why have they remained such an important priority for you?
Labor issues. I that it's your livelihood. I mean, labor issues could, in my case, I've just seen people been taken advantage in such ways that we we have to have these laws in place to protect people. Thank God for I say thank God for labor unions. They're the ones that really hold companies, hold them up accountable and fight for our workers. Um, so it does. It's very important to me. Not to mention that I grew up in a union family. I understand the significance. To this day, I hold my UFCW card. So I'm a United Commercial Workers Union member to this day. My first job was at the Jewel Food Store.
Oh,
And I became that was my first job. And that's really kind of where I recognize, the importance of having your sick days and your benefits. And, it's, I early on, I learned. And so it's protecting that and um, just really important that big companies are not taking advantage of one. That's why.
yeah, and it is important. I think because I was involved in my union too. I think once you get involved, you start to understand the hierarchy of things, the importance of how negotiation happens, why you should be at the table, why your voice matters, right?
Absolutely.
It's a level of civic engagement. Um, so there's still a lot of questions, but I want to get at something um, connecting back to Springfield, because I
Mm.
know one thing that's everybody understands about funding, and we talk about it, but no one really understands the whole process of the funding of bills. Uh, but one person wanted to know regarding state funding, what is being funded and what is being reduced? Can you help us understand where Illinois is investing today and how do legislators make those difficult choices, which I'm sure they are?
Hmm. It's a very sort of broad, like questions. What is being reduced? So, um, that our our budget is set up in a way that um, it's from the various tax entities that produce the dollars that come in. So um, we are we're we were able to pass a balanced budget. However, it wasn't without. It tends to always be more than what we got, what we're asking for. It's always that way. So in the end, we have to prioritize, but it's not without the obligations. You still have to pay your pensions, your health services. So there is up to that takes up the majority of your budget, and then you're left with um, a it's a very minimal. You got just a small. I just want you to kind of take it like it's your checkbook. You pay your mortgage and your utilities and everything that you're obligated to, and then whatever is left over is what you use to pay off um, whether it's groceries or so. Um, I would just say that um, we did balance it. It When it comes to our education, our health care, you add all that up, and it is beyond um, what we really have in terms of available funding. So then that's where you have to prioritize of what that's going to, what is going to be paid off. So instead of, for instance, I will give you the evidence-based formula. We give, there is a request for $300 million that we are um, uh, usually that's the norm that we have been for the past few years um, paying out. But the request is for 550 million for this year. So that's just one of many areas, but that is just one just to make it easy to understand that we ended up deciding just it's 300 million. If we ended up going under that becomes detrimental to some of the schools on how they would have to cut back. So do you see that? So
Mm-hmm.
the reduction, if you see a reduction, it might um, I do want to also remind that we went, we did receive what they call ARPA money. During COVID, there was dollars that were um, um, disseminated to the various states. And that there was some just trickle effects because that rolled over for a few years, which raised some of those funding levels to a degree because of what we were going. But um, if there's reductions, it could be in those areas because those dollars got exhausted. And it may look like there's reductions. If there isn't if I'm asked something more specific on what reduction they're talking about, maybe I can explain that better. But I'm just trying to give you sort of like,
Yeah, no, yeah. And I think you've given a good explanation. And budget is always uh
oh God, no, it's
it's, I mean, if you think about your own personal budgets, right? You think about how things are made. So
yeah.
I thank you for that. And I want to pivot to the last question. Representative Hernandez, thank you very much for your time today. I've
Oh,
gotten to know you a lot better. Um, I feel like we have a lot in common. But before we close, I want to bring back to the heart of today's conversation. If someone is watching right now, maybe a young student, a working student, a parent, an educator, or someone who felt invisible in government, what would you say directly to them? What message do you hope they carry with them after hearing your story?
um, look, I I just would say I didn't get involved just because I knew I wanted to be a legislator. This happened because I got very upset with how my community was being treated. I was so upset. I was angry, and I wanted to do something. I was doing what I could when I was working at the school district. Uh, when I realized that this was really an opportunity to be representing and being a voice for, and to really be heard in a place that can make a difference, uh, I I did it. I went after it, and I didn't give up on it. I didn't, and I'm one who hopes demonstrates that. I'm a person who finished my education while I was a legislator. So it's all in the will of one, that if you want it that bad, go for it. In my case, I was so angry, and this was not going to stop me. That is, I I really truly care for my community, and it ate me. It was painful to see how then they were treated through the school system. I could see how people were treated. To see now, um, I hope my story serves as just an inspiration to others if they think they can't. Like, I can't do this. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. You got that right. Con todo corazón.
Now, before we let you go, I have a little fun. Quick answers, first thing that comes up in your mind, okay?
Oh, okay.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Tamales or pan dulce?
I want to say both. All
It's
right,
fine.
tamales.
Favorite place in the second district?
Favorite place in the second district. Wait, say that second place or
In their favorite place in the second district. It could be a restaurant, it could be a store, or anything that
oh.
you enjoy.
Oh my gosh. Uh, Dulce Mami.
Okay. One word your family would use to describe you.
Mm, Stubborn.
We have that alike. We have that alike. Okay. Uh, morning person or night owl?
No, morning person.
A book everyone should read.
Um, the Four Agreements.
Oh, that is a very good book. Um, favorite holiday tradition?
Thanksgiving.
One thing people would be surprised to know about you.
Um, oh, I gave it away. I was going to say I was an army baby.
I didn't know that about you. Okay. One word that describes Illinois.
Um, United.
One word that describes leadership.
Mm, Strength.
One word that describes hope.
Love.
Again, Representative Hernandez Tocaya, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your honesty, your leadership. Today we heard about policy, but more importantly, we heard about your purpose or heard about purpose. We heard about the career rooted in education, a commitment to working families, a belief in immigrant communities, and deep understanding that public service is ultimately about people. That is why conversations like this matter, because democracy is not only built in Springfield, it is built in classrooms, in kitchens, in workplaces, and in neighborhoods, and in conversations like this one. On behalf of the Illinois Legislative Latino Caucus Foundation Alumni Association, thank you for joining us and thank you for everything you do for the people of Illinois. And to everyone watching, thank you for being part of this conversation. Stay informed, stay engaged, and continue believing in your voice, that your voice matters. I'm Elizabeth Villarreal, and it has truly been an honor speaking with my tocaya, Representative Elizabeth Lisa Hernandez. Until next time,
Gracias.
thank you for joining us for Charlas y Chismes con Nuestros Legisladores. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great weekend, and go White Sox.
Go White Sox. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.